You're listening to Passion Project, and I'm your host, Kat Margulis.
Hi, everybody. This is Kat from Passion Project, and today I'm so excited because we have the amazing, badass Laura Zerra here. Hi, Laura.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. So Laura, I'm sure we've got a lot of fans watching right now, but Laura Zerra is a primitive survivalist, hunter, and nomad. In 2013, Laura was able to put her skills to the test, spending 21 days in full survival in Boca del Toro, Panama, as a cast member of the Discovery show Naked and Afraid. As an all-star cast member, she was asked to return to complete another 21-day challenge in the Peruvian Amazon, and again to complete 40 days in the Colombian savannah in season 1 of Naked and Afraid XL. Laura is a true nomad who loves to challenge herself and is always looking for the next great adventure. By pushing her limits, she's constantly furthering her knowledge and loves to learn new skills. Her passions include primitive hunting and bow building, exploring wild places, free diving, and teaching what she loves. Laura, I'm so excited to chat with you. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored.
Yeah, so it's really cool that I got to interview you a couple of years back for your book, Guide to Knife Making, and you blew me away. That was like such an amazing interview, and I'm pretty sure I cried because your connection to nature and animals and the wild was so beautiful and inspiring. And I was really excited to have you on the show today because I feel like you exemplify going after your dreams, like following your passion. And you know that saying, like, follow your passion, everything else will come. Money, success, sometimes it just sounds too good to be true. But, you just feel like, I mean, what a wild child. You're doing these incredible things. It's definitely very far from the traditional path that most people take. And you're following your heart and you're making it happen. And I'm just like, has that been the experience for you, that everything follows when you follow your heart?
Oh, absolutely. And I wasn't always like this. Like, I used to follow what I thought other people's expectations for me were. So me following my dreams didn't happen until I was in college. And up until then, I was pretty much doing what I thought I was supposed to do. You're supposed to like go to school and get a practical job and, don't push too far because you need to really focus on plan A, but you have to have a plan B and a plan C, and it has to be very practical. And I knew I loved being out in the woods, so I thought I had to come up with a job that made sense. Like, oh, maybe I'll be a biologist, or, maybe I'll work for some government agency. And really, I loved being out there in a really extreme way, but I didn't think that was an option. And it was kind of this one point. It was actually this one moment of time. I had a conversation with a man that I met for 2 days when I was volunteering for a nonprofit, and every excuse that I had for living practically, he had a reason that was not necessarily something I had to do. And so he completely blew my mind. This one interaction with this one person, it changed my entire life. And I was like, wait, maybe I can do what I want. Maybe I can think outside the box. Maybe I can live the life I want to lead, even though I don't know how I'm going to get there or what that's going to look like. Yeah. I'm going to follow my heart. And I just started doing it and living it. And man, I'm so glad I did, because my life now and what I have now, as far as like the quality of the things I do and just the richness of everything, is so much greater than I could have ever planned. Like, if this had been my plan, I don't know, I could have never had such an amazing plan. So it made all the difference to just really follow what I wanted to do. And the path kind of just was laid out before me, even though I couldn't see it. I just feel like the world got me exactly where I needed to be. And I just followed that passion. So
when he did that, when he opened that up for you, what was your next step?
Well, so I was actually in college at the time, and I was a total overachiever, just overpointing, I had to do perfect. Everything was, I just wanted to do the best at whatever I was doing. But I realized that I didn't need college, and that I really wanted to learn survival. That's what I'd always been passionate about, was like living in the woods and existing kind of as a human animal. So I'm not saying everyone should do this, but my next step was to quit college, which, funny enough, is one of the things that I'm most proud of doing, because it was the first thing in my life I think I ever did for me. It was something that was a decision that I don't think anyone else would have looked at and thought was like a wise thing to do for my future. But for me, it was like honoring myself and what I wanted and knowing that I believed in myself enough to make this really scary and to others seemingly very poor decision. But it was so important for me. And, like I said, I don't think that's a decision I don't think if you drop out of college, your dreams will come true. But for me, that was a step I needed to take. And it was kind of this commitment to myself. It was like, you're coming on that roller coaster and then you just go over the edge. And it was like, all right, I'm doing it. Like it's happening.
Yeah.
And I've been going ever since. And now I trust myself a lot more. And when you take that first scary step and you don't die, then you realize that, okay, like I can do scary things and I can do hard things. And you kind of just trust yourself a little more each time to do what is best for you.
Yeah. And I do love, like, when I'm reading your bio, like you do have a commitment to learning. Like, I mean, you're so amazing. Yeah. I mean, you can survive. I was watching the Arctic episode last night. Like, that's insane. You can do it all, but it's like, I can see your hunger to learn more. And
yes, always
commitment to learning. Yeah.
It's kind of an obsession of mine. Like, I don't think I'm very good at anything, but I want to experience and learn everything I possibly can. And so I've always just kind of, like I want, I like this. Well, I'm going to go and just dive into that and learn that and then take what I want. And then I think I have kind of that ADD mindset where I'm just like, oh, what's over here? What's over here? And it kind of feeds my excitement for everything and things don't get boring. I don't know. I think anytime I'm uncomfortable and I'm really pushing the boundaries of my comfort zone, that's when I'm learning. And so doing new things and I love it. It makes me feel alive.
Yeah. And I guess, like there's always a new challenge as far as surviving. My God. I mean, do you feel like you could do anything? Do you feel unstoppable?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think the more, I know that my strength is being really happy and comfortable in the most uncomfortable situations. Yeah. So I know that no matter what happens, I think mental attitude is so important. And I don't necessarily think I'll ever have all the physical skills that I want, but it's that trust in self and knowing that I can be in a good mental state for things and that I can problem solve because, for survival, especially, I feel like it's not focusing on what you don't have. It's focusing on what you do have and how to use it to meet your needs. And that's kind of something I've taken into life in general that I think is really important. Is it's like, all right, I might not be in the perfect situation at every moment in my life, but there are things I have, and how do I focus on those things and make the best of it? And so it's kind of something that has given me this really important view when I enter anything, whether it's, a survival situation or, a global pandemic. It's like, it's not what you don't have, it's what you do have and how you're going to use it. And so in a lot of ways, it's like I can go into life knowing that, I'm going to be okay. Like no matter what happens, no matter what gets thrown at you, it's like you deal with what you have and you make the best out of that. And then how can you go wrong?
Yeah. It's like that attitude, like everything is figure outable.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it might not look exactly how you think it's going to look, but you let go of that control and you just embrace wherever you're at. And then it's like, oh, okay. Like the path becomes clear.
Yeah. How do you feel like you reached that point?
Doing it a lot and being really uncomfortable and proving to myself that you can get out of those situations. I think failures have always taught me more than successes. So anytime everything went wrong in my world, whether it was on, like a survival situation or life, it's like when things go wrong, that's when it's like, all right, this is a learning moment. And then not only are you learning how to get through that moment, but you're learning to trust yourself to be able to get yourself through that moment. So I think just doing it, it's like the more you do it, the more it gets comfortable. The more you do anything, the more natural it feels. And so just being in all these different situations and finding, okay, yeah, I can get out of this. It's like you start to trust yourself. And then when that situation arises, you're like, I've been here before. I can do this.
Yeah. What was one of the hardest, like the ones you're like, you reached your limit, sort of,
Oh gosh,
you got through.
What wasn't? I mean, I remember this one time that I was in the Amazon rainforest, and that was on one of my Naked and Afraid shows. And 3 people had quit before we got out there because the mosquitoes were so bad that we have these bags, these like burlap bags that we wear. And at night we actually had to put them on our heads, not because the mosquitoes were biting our face, which they were, but we were actually inhaling them and choking on them because they were so thick. It was these clouds of mosquitoes and nothing worked. Like, we built a fire, right? Everyone's like, oh, smoke keeps mosquitoes away. No, the heat of the fire actually attracted more mosquitoes than the smoke repelled. So I'm here, like, I'm literally choking on the smoke and the mosquitoes now. And I'm like, this isn't working. And, tried everything, tried putting all the plants that are supposed to work on and, all these things, and nothing's working. And, I just was like, it gets to this point where you have to figure it out or you're going to go crazy. So it turns out that really it was a mental thing. It was like, is this going to kill me? No. Am I going to focus on this? No. Because if I do, I'm going to go mad. So I actually went down to the river, and it's one of my favorite moments of life. And I think it's so symbolic for like how I deal with the world. Is I went down to the river and sat by it, and it was this like beautiful night, and the stars were insane, like shooting stars, and it was just out in the middle of nowhere, so it's gorgeous. And there's all these fireflies upriver, and downriver there's this massive storm, and there's just lightning across the sky, but I'm dry and there's no clouds above me. And it was like one of the most beautiful nights of my life. And instead of focusing on the fact that I was being eaten alive, I was focusing on all this that was going around me. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, wow, like I get to be here, and like having gratitude for getting to see what I was seeing. Yeah. And so it was like, all right, like this mental attitude was the tool that I needed. It wasn't actually like a certain plant I needed to find or a certain skill I needed to have. It was like putting my mind to something. And then, but I mean, when you get in situations like that, so, your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy.
It's almost like, that is the biggest obstacle, is mindset and headspace and all of that, and that's incredible.
One of the few things that we can always control. So when everything kind of goes crazy around, it's like, all right, what can I control? I can control my brain right now. Maybe that's it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And what was like a moment where you're just like, I cannot believe this is happening to me as far as your career goes, and you're like, you're following your passion. Like, what was the moment you're like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this is happening.
I think there's been a lot of moments like that, and for good or for bad, there have been times in my life where I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, what am I going to do? What's my next step? I mean, the first time I ever got called up for Naked and Afraid, it was literally one of those points in my life where I was like, I have no idea. Like, I'm out of money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what's going to happen? And I'm staying at a friend's house, and he lives out in the middle of nowhere, like doesn't have a cell phone, has like a landline, but is completely disconnected from the world for the most part. And his landline rang, and it was actually, a producer that had gotten my name from someone else that I hadn't seen in years. And it all came together. I'm like, first of all, how did you find me? And second of all, you want me to do what? And it was so funny because like the night before I literally had a conversation of like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life right now. Like, what's the next step? How do I keep doing what I'm doing? And, it always just like ends up working out somehow. And even when it doesn't, when things seem like, what's next, or plans fall apart or whatever, there's always this next moment that just kind of like unveils itself. And it's almost like when everything falls apart around you and you don't have anything anymore, that's when you're open to anything. Because if I had some kind of job where I had a commitment or whatever, I wouldn't have been able to say yes to that opportunity. So it's like I almost look forward to those moments more now, because I'm like, oh, what's the world throwing at me now? Something's about to happen.
That's awesome. That's so incredible. And you didn't have and also you maybe didn't have a choice. Like you said, like did you just jump at that? You're like, absolutely. And I like living a life where I can be open to that kind of thing, because you just never know what opportunities are going to come up. And so being able to say yes. And I don't know, I love those like unexpected and really exciting things that happen and come up. And, I'm always chasing the next adventure. So when an adventure finds me, I have a really hard time saying no. That's so awesome. And now you do so many things. Like, you're on the show, you're an author, you teach, you take people on expeditions, and
I've done all of it and continue to do all of it. More so now I've just been focusing more on, I love writing and I want to write a book. The book that I wrote was a book on knife making, which was super fun. And it was really challenging because it was a technical book and technical writing. I'm like, I can tell stories, but can I really do this? So that was exciting, but I want to write more about kind of my adventures and my stories. And then I balance that out with really just feeding that drive that I have to learn and experience new things. And so it's like, I try to have an adventure every day. People look at my Instagram and they probably think, does she have some kind of backlog of stuff that she's posting? And I'm like, no, like I try to go out every day and do something and just put myself out there in some way and just push myself in some different way. So it's kind of always, that's how I balance myself out. I'm like, all right, I can't be out adventuring like all of the time, like, but I need to balance it out and fit it in there somewhere.
That's incredible. Yeah, I would love to get a book from you. And I think you should do something like kind of push through your limiting beliefs. Like you could do it all. Yeah.
Thank you.
So much. And I think you mentioned a podcast, that you're working on a podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I think now, especially, I just took a big break from social media and kind of just did like a big social media detox and went off and had all these adventures and fed myself. And then the world started going mad. And I was like, oh my goodness, I see all these people and I hear all these people that I'm talking to that, have lost so much and their lives are changing in huge ways. And I'm used to change, but I know a lot of people, it's kind of like whole worlds are falling apart. Relationships are falling apart, talking to all these different people. I'm just like, this is one of those times where I feel like the skills I have, like maybe could help even one person. And so, I've been thinking about doing a podcast for a while, but now I'm like, no, this is the time. And I think one of the most important things, like we've been talking about, is sometimes in those moments where it's like, you're in it, like you're in the darkness, like everything has fallen apart. You're in a bad place. And we kind of just want to stick our heads in the sand and wait for that moment to be over. But I think, if people can actually just sit in that and know that there's like, I was just talking to a friend the other day, we were talking like, there's always a flower in the dark, right? Like if you're sitting on the side of a mountain and the sun goes down and you're in a field of wildflowers, like those flowers are still there. You just might not be able to see them necessarily. So it's like, how do you be okay with being in that bad space and still know that like, that's usually, that's a place where you actually can find a lot of good and a lot of amazing things. So, I think getting through, having people not be so freaked out about where they're at and to be able to look around them and see that all they have to do is look and they're going to find something amazing in that. And talking to, there's been a few friends of mine who have already been like, well, I feel guilty because everyone's so upset, but this has actually been kind of an amazing experience because I lost my job and now I'm pursuing my passion that I've always wanted to do, but was too scared to take the step. And now this job that was secure was taken away from me. And now I actually have the time to put into, this new thing that I've always wanted to do. And it's like, if people can seize those moments and stop focusing on what they don't have and really look at what is available to them, I think that's important. And I met so many amazing people along the way, and I want to, have them share their stories about how, sometimes the worst moments in your life are actually just like the greatest blessing. You just can't see it then. Yeah. So, I think the more people can be comfortable in that place, and know that there's hope and it actually might be the greatest gift they've ever gotten. So yeah, that's kind of the idea for what I want to do.
I totally agree. That's been the case my whole life through. And that's what I'm committed to writing about too with my books. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like break down to break through always.
Yeah, always. Like those are the moments. And I think the more that you recognize it and look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's like the more comfortable you are when things go wrong. Like I talked about before, it's like, it's that practice. It's just knowing that, okay, I'm going to recognize it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to like be grateful for that. And then the next time it happens, I'm not going to feel like there's no hope because I know that last time there was. So why is this going to be any different?
Yeah, I love that. And I also love it because I always struggle too. Like, I'm like, I'm passionate about passion projects, and I really encourage everybody to go after it. And then sometimes I'm like, doesn't that feel like a little bit elitist? And, what about during a pandemic? You know what I mean? But I do feel like that there is that's the light at the end of the tunnel. And maybe it's not something you can do full time. Maybe it's something you just start at. But,
well, I think even traveling to like third world countries, and I think a lot of people would go into certain places and expect, oh, these people have nothing, maybe why aren't they miserable? Why are they so happy? And a lot of times I remember being when I was in Panama, I'm thinking about all these people that I had met that I hitchhiked through Mexico and met all these people in the middle of the jungle. I was doing jungle survival, and I'd literally pop out in these villages where people didn't even speak Spanish. They spoke Nahuatl, like the Mayan language. They had nothing. And they were so happy. The kids are running around and playing, and they're so fulfilled, and they're so exciting. And people would look and think they had nothing, but they were so happy. And then we stayed when we came out of my Naked and Afraid and Bocas del Toro. We went to the Trump Tower, whatever hotel thing had just opened in Panama City. And so they put us up there for the night. And I remember going to the infinity pool after spending 21 days starving on an island. And there were all these people laying around, and they just looked miserable. I just remember looking around and being like, oh my God, these people are like, they're having people bring them food and drinks, and they're laying around in this beautiful space, and they just look miserable. And so it's like, I think it's one of those things where it doesn't matter what you actually have, doesn't matter. I mean, it's not about, it's the whole old cliche, money can't buy happiness thing, but it's so true. And I think that no matter where you're at, I mean, some of the happiest times in my life are when I literally had nothing, not a penny to my name, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm just like in it, and I'm free, and I'm happy. And so I think it really is so much more to do with mindset than anything else.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love you. You're amazing. I'm so excited for your next book, and I'm excited for your podcast, and just keep doing you. You're so awesome, and you're just so inspiring for me and everybody. So thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing all these stories and like putting good in the world right now. I think everyone needs it.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thanks.
Always.
Bye.
Bye.